Welcome to A Sensible Citizen. I'm Tom Milligan. Let's go. With the unlikely popularity of the fossil Bernie Sanders, especially among young voters, socialism has found a surprisingly strong voice in American politics. But nobody seems to know what it is. We've seen Hillary stumble when asked the difference between a Democrat and a socialist. I've personally spoken with many supporters of Bernie Sanders who are clueless as to what socialism is. And the internet is chock full of videos like this one.
Can you define socialism?
Can I define socialism? Probably not.
Socialism, oh boy. I don't think I can.
So what is socialism? And why is it so hard to define, even for those who claim to support it? While the word socialism is a very broad term used to describe a number of socialist theories, there is one common thread across all those theories. Webster's definition of socialism makes it pretty clear. Socialism refers to a system of social organization in which private property and the distribution of income are subject to social control. That last phrase, subject to social control, is the very root of all forms of socialism. That means that in a socialist society, while the government may grant some added services upon its citizens, think free college and health care, everything is subject to social control. That means the government can take it over for the greater good. But guess what? Only the government gets to define the greater good. After winning independence from a monarchy that could take what they wanted whenever they wanted, our founding fathers knew that they needed to find a better way. They knew from personal experience what it's like to live under a regime with too much power. And more importantly, they knew exactly what it takes to get away from that power. They wanted to build a nation not ruled by kings or dictators. Instead, they wanted the people to have the power. As they studied monarchies, dictatorships, and all past forms of government, they recognized that having too little or no government was just as destructive as having too much government. They called the two extreme ruler's law and no law, and looked for a way to find a balance between the two, something they called people's law. In the course of their research, they identified 11 common characteristics of ruler's law that must be avoided to achieve people's law. All 11 are important, but we'll cover just 2 of them today. First, they recognized that under ruler's law, without fail, problems are always solved by issuing new edicts, creating more bureaus, appointing more administrators, and charging the people more taxes to pay for these services. They found that under this type of system, taxes and government regulations are always oppressive. Here's a fun fact. The U.S. government has more non-military employees than the combined population of New Hampshire, Rhode Island, and Vermont. I'd say that's more than enough edicts, bureaus, and administrators for one nation, wouldn't you? But if the current socialism trend in our country were to come to power, we would most certainly gain some services, but would see a much higher tax rate, up to 90% if you elect Bernie. In my book, anyone that doesn't consider a 90% tax rate oppressive is delusional. I'm sure most Americans would agree with me when I say that we already pay more taxes than we should. And since those taxes pay for services we didn't ask for, didn't need, aren't provided for in the Constitution, or we were perfectly satisfied buying on the private market where it is no longer available for private purchase, by definition, we're already oppressed. Since our country's inception, we've moved slowly but steadily towards ruler's law and have allowed our elected representatives to become true rulers. And instead of participants, we've slowly become subjects of the ruling class. And under ruler's law, taxes are never high enough. Which brings us to the second common characteristic of ruler's law. The framers noted that under ruler's law, freedom is never considered a solution to anything. In other words, in a socialist society, my freedom to choose how to spend my hard-earned money and from whom to buy products and services will have been eliminated. That's not freedom. That's socialism. So if socialism sucks so bad, why are so many Americans campaigning for it?
Oh boy. I don't think I can.
Most Americans don't know what socialism is. They hear free stuff and get all excited. You may have seen this meme floating around the internet suggesting that any and all government services are a form of socialism. Not even close. What, are we really that stupid? Based on Webster's definition and the key phrase of subject to social control, snowplows are not a form of socialism. Paying taxes to buy a plow and pay someone to drive the plow is in no way threatening to my owning of private property. It doesn't make my home or business subject to social control. Snowplowing provided by the government is not socialism. Neither are roads, highways, or bridges, another common, albeit stupid example the uneducated masses use to promote socialism. None of these threaten my freedom to own private property without the fear of its being taken over by the government. Anyone advocating socialism doesn't have an understanding or appreciation of the delicate balance our founding fathers achieved when forming our nation. It's not an all or nothing proposition, it's a balance. This ridiculous and uneducated meme makes it clear that many Americans believe that those of us that favor conservative principles must believe in zero government or government services. When in reality, we only want the right balance of power. We want what the founders wanted, the balance called people's law. So before you cast a vote for ruler's law, also known as socialism, please take the time to learn what socialism actually means and how it will affect all of us. Maybe then you'll understand how the very thought of a socialist government in the United States of America lays waste to all our forefathers fought and died for. That's all for today. Thanks for watching. I'm Tom Milligan, and this is A Sensible Citizen.